And over to you, Pete.
So good morning, everybody. My name is Pete Evans. I'm the Managing Director of SalesStar UK, for those of you who don't know me. Welcome back to those of you who have previously attended the webinar series before, the Rock the Recovery webinar series, and a warm welcome to those of you who are attending for the first time. We've got a great subject matter this morning. We're going to be talking about how to use the digital tools to generate leads. I'd like to welcome and introduce you to the rest of the panel this morning. So first of all, we're going to start with Peter Cooper. Would you like to introduce yourself, Peter?
Yeah, good morning, Pete, and good morning to everybody out there from South Africa back up here to the UK. I'm based just outside London. I'm one of the high performance coaches here at the SalesStar team, and really looking forward to this session because I personally get involved in a lot of this work. So yeah, I'm very keen to get some input from you guys.
Kath is another member of our team. Kath is responsible for sales in our business. So Kath, would you just like to introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, sure thing. Good morning, everybody. So I'm Kath. I'm based in Leeds. I'm the sales development leader for SalesStar UK. I support growth-minded CEOs in their sales transformation. So please do reach out to me with any questions during this webinar.
And I'd like to introduce Paul O'Donoghue, who is the CEO of SalesStar, all the way from Auckland in New Zealand.
Hello, everybody. I founded the company 16 years ago, and I still get excited about attending these. So I hope you're as excited as I am. It's wonderful to be here.
And last but not least, Alex Chan, who's going to be delivering and leading the delivery of the content today. So Alex, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and over to you.
Hello, everybody. Pleased to meet you, many of you again on this Rock the Recovery webinar. We've got an hour that is full of really, really useful and helpful material. So I promise you that if you stay with us for the full hour, you're going to get a lot of good takeaway tips, tools, and ideas. Thanks, Pete.
So just a couple of housekeeping tips. Please feel free to ask questions in the chat facility. We will take time at the end to pick out some of the great questions and answer some of those questions, and just feel free to ask questions as you go along. And it's now over to you, Alex, to lead the webinar.
All right, so this is the official start. So Pete, I understand that UK has officially gone into recession, which is was it 2 quarters of negative or static growth? Is that right?
That's correct. The announcement came yesterday that the GDP has fallen by 20.4% in the UK in the last quarter. I think that's certainly creating a bit of negativity amongst people, and I think hopefully this morning we'll be able to help people address that mindset issue as well.
Yeah, well, look, I wonder if any of you logged on or are logged on because maybe you're feeling any of the bullet points that are listed here by any chance anyway. Are your sales going down? Have your deals stalled? Maybe you're just a little bit unsure about the future. That which you don't know about can be rather stressful, can't it? Are you finding that some of your customers are slashing and burning, or maybe they're just plain disengaging? Maybe prospects are too busy to talk to you because they're just in damage control. Businesses are at a standstill. You've just come through lockdown, and of course you've got the ever-present concern of Brexit as well, just to compound it all. Have your leads dried up on top of that as well? For those of you who have been with us for the last few weeks on Rock the Recovery webinar series, you know that we've been likening the current economy, what I call the COVID economy, to being in a desert. And that is where all of your business dries up, your market dries up, just like in the literal sense in a desert, all of the plant life and water dries up. And the trouble is, if we don't have a strategy to get through that desert, then we can come out the other side looking like this poor person where there's just nothing left. No more money, no more staff, no more customers. What state are we in? Are we going to come out like that? Or are we going to come out of the desert like this? Flood of the Phoenix. A good old movie, or 2 movies, as you can see, 65 and 2004 version. If you've been with us before, you know that the plot of this movie is about a plane that crashes in such a desert, and on board they get a little bit clever and they say to themselves, we've got 2 choices. We can either sit here and wait it out, or we can try to walk it out at great risk to ourselves. But then some clever person on board said, you know what? We've got enough materials in the cargo and from the wreckage of the plane to build another plane. And so that is what the plot of the movie was about, to build another plane. That is a strategy to take affirmative action to get out of the COVID-19 desert. And so the purpose of Rock the Recovery webinars is to help you to consider some strategies to do just that. Pete, what flying lesson are we up to this week? Is it flying lesson number 4?
It certainly is, Alex, yes. And really looking forward to this content this morning.
Okay, so flying lesson number 4 on how to fly out of the desert, that is to take affirmative action to strategically get your way through this economic desert, is to look at some really current topics. Because if your leads have dried up, the question then becomes, how do we use LinkedIn to generate leads? We're talking more than just a networking tool here. We're talking more than just keeping in contact with your friends. We're talking about using it to generate leads. So that's a great, very timely question. The second very timely question is, how can you use technology to sell screen to screen? And Peter Cooper, I'm sure that you figured out that when you guys were in lockdown, some of your clients were able to keep moving in spite of the fact that we were locked down because of this technology. Would you agree?
Absolutely, yeah. I think those early adopting clients of ours were able to follow some guidance from us and work through a screen-to-screen program, which not only did it make things far more effective, but it reduced timescales and improved efficiencies in terms of dead time traveling. So yeah, lots of excitement to come up on that shortly.
Yeah, and look, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you see that. That's why I said, if you stay with us for the whole hour, we've got so much to share with you, because there's a lot of really good tools, tips, and techniques that you are about to hear. All right, and these are tools, tips, and techniques that we have shared in 5 countries around the world, and of course the UK being one of them, with hundreds of business owners and salespeople. Okay, so let's talk about the first one there. You can see we're talking about both LinkedIn and screen to screen. Let's talk about the first item for discussion today, which is using LinkedIn. More than just a networking tool, rather, as I said, using it to generate leads. So let's talk about leads right now and just get a feeling of the pulse of the viewership right now. I wonder if, Kath, if we can launch that first poll, please, just to see how people are feeling out there. As you can see there, everybody, the question for the day is, do you have enough leads? And the leads, that is the leads that you are currently generating, are they, number 1, plentiful, there's more than enough to meet budget? If you pick that one, then my question to you is, what are you doing here? You don't need us. All right. But hey, look, if you do pick number 1 and you're logged on anyway, great. You're looking for extra ideas to keep on keeping on. Are they satisfactory, but you'd like some more ideas? Or maybe they're less than satisfactory and you're a little bit concerned. And worst case scenario, it's frighteningly low and you're worried. Now, please pick the answer that best describes your situation. You have the protection of anonymity because we can't see who's answering what. So please be honest and tell us what's really going on out there. Kath, are the answers starting to trickle through?
Yeah, we're up to 70% now, Alex, and everybody that's
okay.
voted.
All right, let's give them the 5-second count. We're going to shut the poll off in 5, 4, 3. And can we close that poll and get the results displayed? Thanks, Kath. All right, would you like to summarize those for us?
Yeah, so interestingly, the one that's leading there at 45% is less than satisfactory, concerned about meeting budget. So I'm sure you'll come on to that, Alex. And also frighteningly low, 9% there. So a bit of a spread across them, but the leader is the less than satisfactory.
Hey, the great news is that 14% say that it's really going well. So that's really good. But look, because of the time constraints today, I'm just going to just ask one of the panelists to give me an analysis. Paul, I'm coming to you. Could you just give me an analysis of the poll result that you see with regard to the pulse of the feeling of the people who are logged on right now?
Well, look, if you're less than satisfactory or frightening low, you're in the right place. We're going to certainly share some context of how you can generate leads through LinkedIn. I used to use LinkedIn like Facebook many years ago, and it didn't serve me any purpose at all. Obviously, we've spent a lot of time investing in the strategies on how to use that to generate leads. And what I love about it, it can be so specific to search for your ideal future client. So the question, I think, is a word missing in this survey, which is, do you have enough quality leads? Are they leads that all look like your ideal future client? I wonder if the poll would be different if we put that word in there, Alex.
That's a really insightful question, and certainly one that everybody can ponder. Thanks, Paul. All right, well, that's good. Thanks, everybody, for sharing your thoughts the general mood of what's going on out there with us. It's really important that we just get the vibe from everybody as to how you're finding things. So thank you for sharing that. Thanks, Kath. If we could close that now. Okay, so let's talk a little bit further about LinkedIn. And look, here's a thought for the day for you. Many of you have been to networking events, and because of the recent lockdown, you probably haven't been able to do a whole lot. But you know what? The greatest networking event on the planet is not only the biggest networking event on the planet, but lockdown, schmockdown, it is COVID-19 free. It can carry on even if you work from home forever. Okay, so that's the exciting thing about it. Now, I'm sure if I were to poll you and ask you, does everybody have a LinkedIn profile? What are the chances are that you'd say 100% or 100% of you would say, yeah, I've got a LinkedIn profile. But whether you've got a profile or not is not at issue. The real question is, how can I turn LinkedIn into a science? As you can see, the wording there says, I have a LinkedIn profile, but how can I turn this into a science? Well, hopefully this hour we'll be able to share some of those answers with you. Here's some very interesting stats that you might just want to take a look at. Pete Evans, what's your favorite stat out of this one with regard to LinkedIn?
Well, I think there's a couple on there. 52% of buyers list LinkedIn as the most influential channel during research process. I think for anybody on the call today who's involved in sales or sales management, that's a really great start to share with people, because people are doing their research. And I think interestingly, just adding to that most people will actually search you on LinkedIn before they'll go to your company website.
I was most fascinated by that particular finding as well. Peter Cooper, one of your favorites on that particular slide there?
Yeah, one of my favorites that doesn't actually come on this slide, but I do know from other work we've done looking into LinkedIn, is that of senior decision makers across the globe, okay, this is, across the whole of the world, we've got 120 million senior decision makers go onto LinkedIn at least daily. That's quite staggering when you consider the opportunities that affords people and businesses. Now that the world is such a smaller place, wow, it's just vast.
Yeah, it is indeed vast. I mean, look at those numbers on the top line there, 660 million users in over 200 countries. People, if we are not figuring out how to capitalize on these numbers, then I don't know what. Okay, so why don't we spend the next hour figuring out just that, or giving you some ideas at least. If you want to know how to navigate the COVID economy and how to rock this recovery, then the solution to that particular proposition is sitting right in front of you. This is how you do it. It's what we call the 9-step high performance pathway, and it is the secret to recession-proof your sales. Now, we can't talk about all of these different steps today, but we will be talking about 2 of them. We'll be talking about step number 3, your sales process, because what we're about to share with you can have a very, very strong impact on the way that you do things, on your current sales process. And of course, to make those changes to your process, then you're going to take a look at, you're going to have to take a look at step number 8, which, as you can see, is at the center at the top, which is to do with skill sets. Sometimes we find that a new set of skills are required in order to adapt to the COVID economy. So further with regard to LinkedIn, Paul O'Donoghue, can I just call upon your wisdom here and your experience as well for that matter, because you're particularly experienced on this subject. A lot of people talk about sales funnels, but this is the funnel before the funnel, isn't it?
Well, it's the funnel before the funnel. It's interesting that the sales funnel that we're so used to or accustomed to talking about is quite a traditional sales funnel, which sort of implies, after the lead generation, we handle that in a traditional way, which used to be face-to-face, and that's being blended by screen to screen. But if you think about what's needed to really grow market share in the current economy, we need to be a little bit more savvy. We need to have some digital game. And this funnel was a connection funnel. There's all sorts of funnels from a sales and marketing point of view. But there's a process in LinkedIn. You can't just connect with someone and start selling to them. If you think LinkedIn is a social event at a networking event, you wouldn't go up to someone and introduce yourself and start selling to them, would you? So LinkedIn is the same thing. You just can't connect with someone and shove your product down their throat. That we've all been on a recipient of that sort of strategy, and it doesn't fly. So there's a process, and the process really is about connection. Get as many connections as you can, because it's a massive land grab, and you can connect with up to 30,000 ideal future clients, which is a good strategy and a good organic strategy, because then you can start to influence them over time. But the name of the game is to spark up conversations, because conversations are the new leads. And this is a process in which you can do that, is, connecting with them, starting to have a conversation, maybe position yourself, thinking about the strategic messaging that you can entice them to engage with you and start a conversation. And at the end of the day, when you have a conversation, you can always turn that conversation into a proper conversation once you've got the messaging right. So the key there is messaging and process.
Yeah, I love your phrase there, that the new leads are conversations are the new leads, you were saying, and that stands in stark contrast to shoving brochures under their nose in a real situation, in a physical live situation. Same thing going on here if we try to sell too soon. So people, you're very welcome to take a screenshot of what you see there. I'm going to change this in just a few seconds, so you probably better be quick. But time does not permit us to talk about every one of these steps in this process, but we will highlight a few of these steps just to give you a sample of what might be involved to turn this into a science. So we're going to be talking about 4 things or 4 aspects of this today, and here they are here. Firstly, how to optimize your profile. There are actually some do's and don'ts to make sure that you get maximum optimization of the profile that you've got listed up there at the moment. Secondly, how do you identify your perfect, your ideal future clients using search tools? Do you know about the search tools on LinkedIn? Thirdly, developing messaging templates. There are ways to connect with people to get the maximum results. And then once they have connected with you, there are ways to spark up those conversations that Paul just talked about. So we're going to be giving you some tips and ideas on that as time permits. And also we'll talk about the concept of posting content to keep your connections engaged, which will eventually lead to an inquiry. So that's what we've got in store for you this morning. Let's take a look at the first one, which is optimizing your profile. All right, so what kind of profile have you got up there at the moment? Does it look anything like that? Well, Paul, our general manager is just, she smiles in bemusement because this is her profile, or should I say it was her profile before we turbocharged it. Yes.
Yeah.
And she's a little bit embarrassed that we use her old one before we fine-tuned it, but this is pretty standard, isn't it, Paul?
I think it's standard with most people because they don't know how to use the algorithms in their favor and make their profiles easily searched and to pop out in a crowded marketplace. So there's certainly some tips and tricks here. Most people don't, for example, change to the background banner. And by the mere fact of changing that to an image, it changes and hacks the algorithms in order to find you, and you automatically pop out from a crowded marketplace.
Well, let's take a look at that. So here's your profile, Paul. So we didn't use your before one. We deliberately used your after one because we knew you were joining us tonight. Okay, so look, there's a bunch of things going on there that I'm sure the viewers can already see with their own eyes. But let's just highlight some of the, or feature some of the highlights there. Firstly, ladies and gentlemen, do you notice the banner that Paul refers to? So we've changed that to an official corporate banner, which is our official SalesStar banner. And that's a real standout compared to the previous one. I'm sure you will agree. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, do you notice that Paul's photograph has got a ring going around outlining the circle there around his photograph? Now, why would we do that? Well, if you take a look over to the bottom right, you'll see there people also viewed. If you have one particular photo there that has a ring going around it, it really makes it stand out. Would you agree? So that would be why you put a ring around that. And you can get some basic graphics technology that will help you to do just that. All right, the third thing you might want to take a note of, and Paul, I found this to be really helpful, the bio positions there. Instead of having, look, I help people to do this, or this is my title, you've got key search words there. This also helps to hack the algorithm, doesn't it?
And that was a good learning. They are key words in terms of, you've got to think about if your ideal client was looking for you in Google, what keywords would they search for? And are those keywords in your title? Because if they come up under your banner and your profile and your title, and it's mentioned a couple of times, what it does with the Google rankings is it boosts it up. So even from a Google search point of view, it will bring up your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, so just that one hack alone makes a big difference to make yourself more visible, team. I hope that you realize that and the power of that. The other thing is I see that you've got some icons there, Paul, the little stars in between each of the keywords there. Just makes it stand out a bit more too, doesn't it?
Yeah, it just makes it stand out, differentiates it a little bit.
Indeed. And when it comes to content, do you post media all the time? What about your blogs? What about your white papers? And the thing that's getting used a lot more these days, of course, is video. People tend to pay a lot more attention to that. It actually captures their attention more. So do you put the latest vlogs, blogs, etc. up there? And do you do that on a regular basis?
Yeah, great to put up your thought leadership there, Alex. Like, you can see that one on the left-hand side. It says Sales Star Video Podcast, the neuropsychology. It's all about sales mindset. It's a fantastic blog with Hans. So just if you've got some thought leadership and videos, put them on there.
Yeah, so and that's, I know that video. I watched that video when it came out, and Hans, by the way, people, is our own resident psychologist. So yeah, if you've got thought leadership that you want to share to establish yourself as a thought leader, the authority that people turn to for advice, the authority that people trust, this is how you go about doing it with your postings.
Hey,
All right, so
Alex, there's a question.
Yeah.
Terrio here said, can you do this on a standard LinkedIn account? And yes, you can.
Yeah, okay,
Thanks
so
for the
that answers
question,
that
Terry.
one. Thanks, Terry. Okay, so how do you do all these changes on your standard LinkedIn account, Terry? Here's how. Do you see that little pencil there? That's your editing symbol. Just click on that and make the changes that you need. It's pretty intuitive, and you can figure out how to put your banner on, how to change how to add your search words and all the rest of it. So think about that just to get you started. Now, unfortunately, time doesn't permit us to linger on this subject, but I hope it gave you a few insights into some of the possibilities. All right, but we said that there were 4 different discussion points on LinkedIn. That's the first one. The second one is how to find your perfect future client. Now, this one does require a subscription. Pete Evans, I wonder if you could tell us about some of the benefits of this beautiful little tool here that you get when you subscribe to LinkedIn Premium. Just unmute yourself there, Peter.
Yeah, sorry. I was listening intently to what Paul was saying and you were saying, Alex. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a must for anybody that's in selling. We've been using it in the business. Kath, myself, and Peter use it. What it allows you to do is to do detailed searches on companies that fall into your target market. And more importantly, it also allows you to define the decision makers in the target market. And I know on the slide there, you put finding your perfect future clients. That's based on one of the searches that we do. And we've got a list of the sort of the industries, the sectors we're targeting, and the number of employees. So this is a great tool because it allows you to build up an effective prospect list as well.
Yeah, we've seen lots of case studies where people thought there weren't a lot of people in their target market on LinkedIn, and they were absolutely mind blown when we use Sales Navigator. And the filtration there, you can filter it right down to people in the areas that you want, and even in the subcategories and industries that you want, can't you?
Exactly. No, it's a great tool as part of your ongoing prospecting.
Indeed. So people, yes, you do have to pay for this particular one, just in case you're wondering, Terry, but boy, it pays off in spades. I can tell you, it's well worth the subscription. All right. So Peter Cooper, I see you nodding away profusely there. Anything you want to add to the commentary?
No, just your point around the sheer vastness of new opportunities, people to contact that wouldn't normally appear on any other good old fashioned data list that you could buy, that you used to try and get. It's up to date all the time because people are updating the changes in role and everything else. And yeah, it is an investment that you need to make if you are serious about growing your business.
Yeah, indeed. This business about subscribing to premium, this is for LinkedIn ninjas. Okay, guys. All right. So we talked about we talked about optimizing your profile. We talked about finding your ideal target client. let's talk about this business about positioning, about messaging templates now. Now, if you think back to that funnel that we showed you that there were various steps to turn this business of lead generation on LinkedIn into a process. And part of that process is getting connected in the first place. Here's just one example, and it's just an example, ladies and gentlemen, but an example nonetheless of how you might go about as constructing a connection message rather than just saying, I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn. You might just take a little bit of time to write something a little bit more interesting. Our resident psychologist that I mentioned to you before, Hans, he actually has told us that his connection rate is about 60% if he just takes a look at their profile and he says something about their profile in his connection message. Paul, would it be fair to say that with this generic one, although it's not standard, but if we use something like this, I think the connection rate's something like about 40 or 50%, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about 40%. If you get the messaging right, a good connection strategy is 40%. You might go, well, there's a bit of a trade-off. Hans decides to personalize things and he writes a message based on what he's seen in the profile. The downside to that is it takes a lot of time to go through everyone's profile and personalize something. But when you do something generic like this, you can pretty much automate the process. So you go for volume with less of a connection. So it's a bit of a trade-off. I'd take automation any day.
Yeah, okay, that's great. So look, 20% is pretty good when you stop and think, 40% I should say, is good when you stop and think about it.
Well, it's 40% of more clients than you wouldn't normally get. And if you take a step back, when you're searching in Sales Navigator, you're obviously setting the criteria on your ideal perfect client. And what I love about that process is you can find out the size of the addressable market. And once you have the addressable market, you can decide, okay, I'm going to go about having a connection strategy to connect with my ideal future client.
Indeed. And by the way, once you see the size of that addressable market, it starts getting really exciting as well, because a lot of people think, I didn't realize I had access to this many people of the type that I want to talk to. Okay, so that's an example of a connection message template. But then once you have made the connection, we then get to that part in the funnel that we showed you earlier where we position. Paul, do you just want to quickly talk your way through this for the benefit of our viewers?
Well, again, we're trying not to sound too salesy here, and we're trying to pique interest. But, in this message here, it's thanks for connecting. Be great to learn more about what you do at some point, ? Often people come back and say, here's what I do, blah, blah, blah. But you'll see the second paragraph is a strategic messaging. And it's really designed to create curiosity. So there's some crucial elements in this positioning statement here. We talk about the position. So you'll see growth-minded CEOs. So when a CEO reads that, they automatically, subconsciously think, well, that's me. This is a message that has my interest from the start. Increased revenue, you've caught their attention again by transforming sales team and increasing organizational sales effectiveness. Now, if sales effectiveness and low revenues are a problem, you probably have their attention. So, happy to send some resources through if that's of interest. So you're just gauging their interest to see if that soundbite has resonated. And the power of this is in the messaging. So have a process, but the messaging does all the heavy lifting.
Yeah, no, that's great, Paul. And I think that the thing to remember in agreement to what you were saying is that to remember this is a conversation you're trying to strike up, isn't it? Rather than just trying to pitch. Okay, so we looked at two examples of strategic messaging. The first one is the connection message, and the second one is the positioning message. There's lots more as well, like the follow-up message, etc. All right, but again, time doesn't permit us to go into that this morning, but I'm hopeful that that gives you some insight that getting leads on LinkedIn is a science if you understand the process, and it's aspects of the process that we're highlighting to you right now. Pete Cooper, some of the habits that you might want to get into if you're effective. Now, I remember in my sales rep days, we used to have to do 20 cold calls in one day. That would take up a whole morning. We'd park the car on a block of factories. We'd walk around the block from factory to factory. The habits that we've got here can save a lot of time. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely, Alex. Yeah, I've done those industrial parks as well, collecting business cards, trying to get past gatekeepers in order to arrange appointments. And yeah, that's a lot of hard graft, especially if in the UK, like in the last few days, it's been boiling hot or thunderstorms. So yeah, here is different choices and the habits we got. Here are some recommendations. Then comes down to rigor, and this comes down to having a consistent, regular approach. So you got to be committed to doing this. If you're half-hearted and you don't really want to go for it, then this is going to be a tough program for you. If you're in and you really want to work at this properly, and we can support you, of course, but if you want to do this, you need to get yourself in some good, healthy rigor. Like you said, Alex, if your boss has been driving you to get out for the morning every day and do that cold calling, it's not too dissimilar. It could be 1 hour, it could be 2 hours a day, but it's every day. And that's how the work comes.
I would actually suggest you could do these habits in less than that time, especially once you get into the role of it. Paul?
Yeah, no, you're right, Peter. It's about the discipline. It's about taking action. Like there's a correlation to how much activity you do versus the results you get in sales. Hey, there's a couple of questions up there, Alex, and it was around how soon should you send that message out after you connect. And it's not really a time issue. Like you can connect straight away. The biggest thing is to get your messaging right. That's more important in terms of the timeliness, in terms of how fast or how slow you should respond. It's how potent is your strategic messaging. That's the key.
Yeah, and Paul, if you work back into the rigor, if you are doing your connection messages and your follow-up messages, and that's a daily habit and a daily routine, then yeah, if you put aside 8:30 to 9:30 or 8:30 till 10 every morning, then the following morning's absolutely fine. Or 48 hours is okay as well.
Yeah, the recommendation in terms of the time, the rigor that you speak of there, Peter, the recommendation is about an hour a day. But notwithstanding, Paul did remind us it is the messaging. But go back to what you said there as well, Peter. It could easily be within a day or so in answer to the question, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alex, could I just add something as well?
Yeah, one comment from you there, Pete, and then we'll move forward. Cheers, mate.
Yeah. So Peter and Paul emphasised about the consistency. I think the other key thing is that don't expect instant results in terms of sales. But I think what we found is when you're consistent about your approach to connecting, liking people's posts, commenting, and sharing your own content, things do actually happen. It's about the consistency. If you want to get better at something, you've got to do it consistently.
But isn't that true about live face-to-face networking? You don't get business straight away necessarily. Quite often you have to be seen as a regular at those events and build up trust at those events. So it's not too different in terms of the time expectations, is it, Pete?
I'd say LinkedIn is much better and powerful because once you've actually connected with them and conversed with them, you can influence them through posts. So, it takes, used to take 7 to 12 touch points to bring on a new client. In 2020, it takes 20 to 24 touch points. And the thing about LinkedIn is once you've connected with them and you message them, those are all touch points. And when they see something in your feed and you're posting something, that's another touch point, a like, a comment, they're all touch points.
Indeed they are. Yeah. Oh, by the way, viewers, you see numbers there like 50 connections a day and 40 follow-up messages a day. Look, we're not saying you have to do 50 connections a day, but the recommendation is you do no more than 50 connections a day. And this is an algorithm hack. Because if the LinkedIn robots sense that you're doing more than 50 connections, then it thinks that you're spamming their database or that you're trawling their database. So they'll shut you down. All right. And I believe that the shutdown has been for several hours. So the recommendation is no more than 50 connections a day, just to stay under the radar. And look, we must push on, people. We looked at different aspects of LinkedIn from optimizing your profile to finding your ideal target client and through to messaging and message templates. I want to talk about this fourth one now, which is posting content. Now, Pete Evans, this next concept here, when it comes to posting content, what is on this slide just about brings tears to people's eyes, cleansing the profile. Why does this bring tears to people's eyes?
Because people have invested a lot of time in building up their network over the years. And I think particularly when I first went onto LinkedIn, I would accept anybody's connection requests, thinking that they might be useful. That old adage of, well, you don't know who people know. But I think, one of the key things that I've learned is have people in your network who are in your target markets. That's the key thing. So I think people get upset when you say you've got to actually cleanse your network. But I think the stat there about only 20%, approximately 20% of people in your network will see your posts is actually quite scary. So actually, when I've started cleansing my network, I've realized that the more that I do it, the more that my posts are being seen by my target market.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, if you've got your mother on your network, and if you've got your neighbor on your network, and if you've got your son's swimming coach on your network, then that means a whole lot of the wrong people have got a very strong chance of seeing your post, and it's a total waste of time,
Exactly.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think,
Okay,
Pete Evans,
Pete,
just to highlight on that, you mentioned people who have invested a lot of time building up their network. I think what's really happened is people spend a lot of time increasing the number of connections that they have. It's not actually the network, their quality network that they've been growing. It's just a volume. I know from personal experience over the last 10 plus years that some of the people I connected with 9 years ago, I don't remember why or who they are or anything. So yeah, it's being brave. That 0.3 takes courage.
Yeah, and you imagine if those people who you don't even know anymore, they were the ones who got your post, that means a bunch of other people got wasted because they took up part of your 20%. Paul, just a personal experience from yourself before we move on. You had to cleanse your network early on as you were getting your head around LinkedIn some time ago, and that just about made you cry, didn't it?
Oh, yeah, for sure. You spend years and years and years connecting with people, and I guess the size of your network sort of strokes the ego a bit. But then when you start to think about how the algorithms work and posting content to influence your ideal future clients, and if your connections aren't your ideal future clients, are just getting wasted eyeballs and attention. So yeah, I had to cull mine and really be ruthless about it, but then rebuild. So now I've got a very, 99% of my connections would be CEOs of mid-sized companies and our ideal future clients. So
which is your target.
Yeah, our ideal target market.
Yeah. So we love your mother, but she's no longer on your network. That's the main thing.
I've had to send her an apology and said, "Mum, sorry, no LinkedIn."
Okay, so look, that's the first thing, people, and wow, that does take courage, as Peter was saying. But now let's talk about actually doing some posting so that the right eyeballs do see it. The recommendation is for one post a day. Peter, can you just talk to us about what is this business about hashtags?
Yeah, again, it's another way that the algorithms pick up trending messages, conversations, things that are topical. And again, it'll just help bring your posts further up in the viewing window as people are scrolling through. So yeah, use them sparingly, use them right, pick the right words, and yeah, obviously use your company name where you can.
Yeah, not SalesStar, everybody. That's just what we use, all right? Where it says the hashtag SalesStar. Feel free to. It says they're the type of post, e.g. video. Peter, you put quite a bit of video up there, don't you?
Are you asking me or Peter?
Sorry, Pete Evans, beg your pardon.
Yeah, video really works. And what I've noticed is that the more you share video content, the more you get interaction with yourself and people commenting. So, and also what we know from some of the stats is that people will access video on the smartphones as well.
Yeah, indeed. It's that's the one that gets the attention, I agree, which is why we've got our own in-house production crew full time. Okay, so I'm not saying that you have to do it. It could be something as simple as a message on an iPhone. It doesn't have to be overproduced. All right, but as long as the message is good.
Well, though, Mr. Evans poses questions and brings people in, because just about when I'm about to go to bed or first thing in the morning, I get a ping and I'm invited into having a conversation and trying to collect my thoughts to say something very intelligent when I first wake up in the morning to reply to Pete Evans' LinkedIn post. So
it's because of Pete Evans that I turn my phone on silent when I go to bed, because our nighttime is your daytime over here in New Zealand. But good going, Pete. I love the fact that you're so active. And by posting, as Paul said earlier on, you are establishing yourself, building up a reputation as a thought leader and as a trusted advisor. Yeah. And that is the idea behind posting. Final comment from you, Pete, and then we'll move forward.
Yeah, I think, for example, be spontaneous in your postings. You know, write something and get it out there. And I think in the old Nike thing, just do it. I'll give you an example. Yesterday morning, I was having a conversation with Paul about something in the latest GDP figures in the UK. And Paul said, well, that would make a great post. So I just put a post on, and the interaction amongst some of my contacts, but also importantly, some people that I don't know, and that post has generated 2 new leads for the business.
Wow. Look, you know, there's the power of posting. There's the power of creating thought leadership. Thanks, Pete. So to the rest of us who are viewing, what thought leadership can you provide so that your clients will want to turn to you for advice relative to what it is that you sell? Think about that. Establish yourself as a thought leader, and happy posting. All right, so people, we said that we would cover 2 topics this morning. We said that we would cover how to generate leads from LinkedIn. And did you get some ideas from that? Of course, there's a whole course behind this of study that you can do, but was that enough to give you some idea of the possibilities to turn this into a science? I hope so. Well, that therefore brings us to the second topic that we said that we would share with you. And what is that? That is screen to screen, selling screen to screen like a ninja. And of course, through the lockdown that we've just been through, we know that some of us have had to master this. Sadly, some of us have held back from this, just waiting for things to open up again while competitors got the jump on us. We know that even though we've come out of lockdown, a lot of people have said to us, hey, this is so efficient, we're going to keep it a permanent part of our process. So let's talk about this then. And I want to talk about these dinosaurs who failed to adapt. Are you a dinosaur? Or are you a cockroach? I'll leave that one up to you anyway. But look, why is it important to be willing to adapt? Peter Cooper, I would say that it gets you in front of more clients. What's your comment about that one?
Absolutely. And it does get you in front of more clients because you haven't got to drive 2 hours each way to go see somebody. And then when you turn up, they've got another meeting that's come in and you don't actually get to see them anyway. You've written off a day. So you've got a really good way of working fast. And the other part that's shifted recent, a lot of buyers are now much more proficient using screen because of COVID. They've been talking to their kids, their mum, their family members, their friends using Zoom, Skype, any other face-to-face comms. So no longer do your buyers have an excuse, oh, I don't know what to do. The buyers are ready. They're willing and waiting to use screens to talk to us.
Actually, I like that comparison to Skype. How many parents Skype their kids? You were just saying that, weren't you? You know, the kids are overseas, maybe not at the moment, but they're at some faraway university or something like that. Screen to screen stuff is a common thing for parents, like you say, isn't it?
Absolutely now, so much so. So that old objection blown out of the water. Don't believe it. Don't let it. And point 3 on the bullets. Your own self-limiting belief is the only reason you wouldn't do it. It's because you have got a fear of it, not because your customers have.
You know, I read a UK study a little while back, and it showed that with regard to cost of sale and with regard to cost of visiting a client, that the average salesperson spends 14% of their time face-to-face with customers. That means they're spending 26% of their time either stuck in traffic or stuck in the office. So with such a low face-to-face time ratio, surely, Peter Evans, do you think that might include their face-to-face time, even if it's virtually? Unmute yourself there, Pete.
Yeah, I think some great points there, but I think that the time saving of not having to travel to clients and prospects means that you can actually speak to more prospects directly. You know, using the phone or screen to screen, it says valuable. I think the other thing is Peter was talking about mindset and challenging your own self-limiting beliefs. I've been speaking to some salespeople recently saying we can't wait to get back out and drop in and see our customers. Actually, your customers are going to be busy. You know, your customers are going to be busy. You know, having Zoom meetings or phone or well-structured phone meetings with people is the way ahead. Because the people you're selling to want a different method of being sold to.
It is indeed. You know, there's a story that I'm fond of telling. which is a true story. During the lockdown in New Zealand, which went for, what was that, about 6 weeks, I think it was, we have a customer who's in the group home construction industry, which is why I've got a picture of a brand new house up here at the moment. And they were throwing their arms up in the air during lockdown saying, what are we going to do? All our opportunities are coming to a standstill. We taught them how to sell screen to screen. And because we gave them the comparison of Skype, like Peter was saying earlier on, they said, well, yeah, how many of our customers are going to push back if they already use Skype with their kids? You know what? Not one customer pushed back. Not one. And you know what? Instead of rolling out a set of plans across the customer's dining room table, they showed them the plans on screen. They even took them through 3D walkthroughs. It actually was more dynamic than rolling out a set of plans. And they were able to keep their opportunities moving. They did not lose one sale, not one. And so what they said to us is that this is so efficient, we're going to carry this on as part of our permanent process, even after lockdown. So I thought that was a massive shift in their process and in their skill set and in their mindset too, for that matter. Final comment from you, Paul, before we move forward.
Oh, look, I just think that using LinkedIn and screen to screen, it doesn't have any borders, does it? So what we've found is that most of our clients' catchment area, their geographic area, has expanded. So they're actually expanding their business through COVID and using digital sales transformation. I mean, we, for one, have been selling all around the world for quite a number of years, and we're quite fortunate that the rest of the world has caught up with us in terms of receiving calls from screen to screen. So it's normalized things a little bit for us, but for others it can be a novelty and it can be a game changer.
Indeed. And Paul, I regard you as not only a strategist, but as a futurist, which of course is strategy. And you foresaw this 3 years ago, which is why we've been doing all of our selling screen to screen ever since then. So yeah, when lockdown came along, we were ready. Okay, so look, we must move forward. I want to get the mood of the audience now. Another poll, thanks, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like you to self-rate your screen to screen selling skills. All right, so 1 to 4 out of 10, meaning I need help. 5 to 7, could be improved. Or if you're somewhere between an 8 and a 10 out of 10, you're a ninja. All right, so the poll is up. Go ahead and enter it there. Kath, are the answers starting to trickle through?
Yeah, they're coming in fairly quickly, actually, Alex. Everyone's knows where they are with this.
Okay, that's great. So what percentage have we got through now, Kath?
71% of the audience have voted.
Okay. Okay, so once again, let's give them the countdown, shall we? In 5 seconds, we'll shut it down. 4, 3. Thanks, Kath. If you'd like to close that and put the results up there for us. Whoa, look at this. If you'd like to share that, Kath?
Yeah, of course. So we've got 1 to 4, 14% of the audience. Out in the front, 5 to 7, so could be greatly improved at 77%. And then we've got a few ninjas in there as well. So 9% of the audience are ninja level.
Okay, we've got some ninjas amongst us. Okay, I'm going to get one comment from one on the panel before we move forward. And Pete Evans, I'm coming to you. What's your analysis of what you see there?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that most people have responded that they could be greatly improved. I know this is something that everybody's had to adapt to during the last few months. And I know it's something that we've embraced fully in SalesStar, but there is an etiquette and a process to go through. It's not just simply logging onto Zoom or logging onto Microsoft Teams. There's an etiquette and a process to go through. And I think if there's one area you take away in actually learning how to use these platforms properly to consultatively sell and present, it'll improve your success in selling.
Indeed it will. Thank you for that, Pete. Thank you, Kath. If we could just close that poll now. And what I'd like to do is go through 3 different aspects of screen-to-screen selling, again, just to give you some insight into what might be involved, which of course is what Pete referred to. So we're going to just take a very quick look at etiquette, some of the do's and don'ts, what is rude and what is not rude when you're doing screen-to-screen selling. The second thing is some actual hacks. What are some techniques to make it a better experience? And thirdly, what are some specialist selling tools that you can use that are peculiar to screen? So let's look at the first one now, which is etiquette. And we're not going to go over every single point there, but Peter Cooper, what's your favorite point up there that you think would be some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to what is rude and what is polite?
Yeah, well, I think that it's really important that you turn off your phone and, your webcam. Is that important, do you think, sometimes, maybe to use your webcam, or perhaps could that be seen rude by the other person because they can't see your face and trust you? So
Yeah, I'm particularly passionate about that webcam comment there, Peter, which of course is the first bullet point. It's not only good manners, but it actually helps to improve the experience too, doesn't it?
yeah, trust is gained when you can see the other person's eyes.
Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes customers are a little bit camera shy, and they appear on a virtual meeting without the webcam on. I just very, very respectfully ask them, "Hey, Peter, do you mind if I ask you to turn your webcam on?" And like good obedient customers, they just turn it on. So, so they'll do what you ask them if you ask them nicely. Pete Evans, any favorite point there for you?
Yeah, there's a couple. I've seen people actually eating on screen.
Oh, you don't?
Yeah, I've seen that a couple of times. And I think the other one is dress appropriately. You've got to treat this as if you were attending a face-to-face meeting. So don't turn up for your meeting with a prospect or even an existing customer with a hoodie on. Just prepare properly.
You know what? During the New Zealand lockdown, we had a person who appeared on a screen-to-screen meeting wearing his uniform, and everybody knew he was working from home because they were working from home as well. It was lockdown, but he put on his uniform, and the customer actually made mention of it and said, "Thank you for showing us respect." And he said, "What do you mean?" They said, "We know you're working from home. We're working from home, but you showed us respect by putting on your uniform in spite of the fact that you're in your dining room." Isn't that interesting? Okay, yeah. And Paul, we'll get one comment from you, Paul, before we move on. What's your favorite point from this slide here?
I'm going to give you mine. You should ask Kath too, because she's a LinkedIn and screen-to-screen sales expert.
Okay.
But mine would be ask permission if you're going to record.
Yes.
Because people can see that little red light come through, and it can be very off-putting if you're trying to interview someone and they see that. And I've fallen into that trap once myself, so never ever again.
See, Teresa's just written in saying she had an experience with a gent who was topless. This is a family show, Teresa, all right? Okay, Kath, any favourite point there for you?
Yeah, well, I've got a couple of additional points there, Alex, just real quick, some tips for people out there. The first one that I found really, really effective is when you start a call with your client, ask them what their expectations are from the call, and that'll give you great insight into their mindset. And then also ask them, what do you know about what we do? And again, that'll show any gaps in the knowledge about you and the business. And it's a great conversation starter. A couple of tips.
Excellent. All right, people, look, we're not going to dwell on this because unfortunately time is against us, but hopefully that gives you some ideas of the do's and don'ts when it comes to what is polite and what is not acceptable when it comes to screen etiquette. But now what I want to do is I want to talk about the hacks. How can you make the experience a really good experience? Pete Cooper, what's wrong with this photo? This person's on a webcam. What's wrong?
Well, where do I begin? You got a bad lighting in the back. You've got expert view of her nostrils. You've got a dressing gown that she's wearing. And do you know what? Yeah, this person literally has just got out of bed to take this call.
Yep, I call that the classic nostril shot, Peter. Not only that, but a good view of the ceiling as well. Let's just hope that she's trimmed her nasal hair. All right. So I think that one of the hacks there is not only get your lighting right, but also elevate your webcam so you don't get that nostril shot. Ladies and gentlemen, do you notice that everyone on the panel has a webcam that is not sitting on the table like this individual in the illustration? All of us have actually stood our webcams up so that they're closer to eye level. That just makes it a much better experience, even if it's at the subconscious level. Now, this gentleman here has elevated his webcam, but Peter, we've still got the issue with lighting there, haven't we?
We have indeed. Yeah, absolutely. It's very hard to tell. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, he's sorted that one out. Yeah. And you know what, guys? It doesn't have to. You don't have to have a lot of fancy technology. Peter Evans, take a look at this one. This person's just stacked their laptop on top of a pile of books and stuck a desk lamp there. It's that simple, isn't it?
It's extremely simple, and you don't have to invest in expensive lighting. I think like you've got there, a light like that can really help you sort of screen to screen. I know, Alex, this is something you bang the drum about, is when you're selling screen to screen is have effective lighting as well.
Yeah, otherwise we'll look like that person in the nostril shot, won't
Yeah.
we? Okay, and look, have you noticed, ladies and gentlemen, that all of the panelists have got this digital background behind you, a bit behind us? You could have a really good natural set design behind you with maybe a nice plant and a nice logo behind you or something like that, or a nice painting. Or you could get a digital background like this, but make sure that if you do decide to have one, that it is approved by your marketing team. All right, so there's different ways you can slice and dice this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each one of these points, except to give this particular suggestion to hardwire your computer to an Ethernet cable. It's between 3 and 4 times faster than Wi-Fi. And if there's one thing that your customers don't like, it's lag when you break up, all right? Okay, so look, there's a few other tips and hacks there. We're not going to spend time going into this, but hopefully this gives you some idea of some of the things that you can do to make it a smoother experience for your customers when they talk to you, even if it's at a subconscious level. All right, Kath, final comment from you before we move on. Anything you want to add to the conversation?
Yeah, I think just being prepared, making sure that you have your conversation planned out and also know what the end is. So if you want to book a presentation meeting, have that as your aim to end the conversation.
Very good. Thank you very much for that. Hey, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, there are specialist tools that you can have that are peculiar to screen selling. There is the triage call. Paul, can you explain to us what a triage is?
Well, the triage call is a call that really helps qualify clients through the process or disqualify them really rapidly. So the great thing about Zoom calls is they can be quick. A triage call can be anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. And for us, it's part of our sales process to really determine whether we take someone through to a deeper dive and from a strategy point of view.
I love that. It can actually speed up the sales process. Fantastic. Next item.
Well, I think in this environment, Alex, we've got to be spending more time on winnable deals. And it's about disqualifying, deals that aren't really qualified at all, not wasting our time.
Yeah, the term triage call was actually invented by the medical profession. That was when doctors would do a telephone consultation to save you coming in from an appointment, and they would try to diagnose the problem over the phone. Well, that's just like consultative selling, isn't it? And of course, it saves a lot of time. Pete Evans, the second bullet point there talks about electronic proposals. Now, both of us, both you in the UK and we in New Zealand, we use an electronic form of proposal called Better Proposals. And that is, I wouldn't say it's unique to screen, but it's particularly, it particularly lends itself to screen, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Better Proposals is one of a number of different proposal systems that you can use. But we found when we started using in the UK, it helps the flow of our presentation meetings with a prospect or an existing client, and you're getting the client engaged because we talk about collaboration with our prospects and clients. So if you need to change something on screen in the proposal, it's more of a discussion document. So it's I would highly recommend that you use them as well.
You know what I love about Better Proposals? I can see what day and what time my clients opened it and what page they spent the most time on.
Yeah.
So I can really watch their behavior when they read that proposal. But look, don't send them out. Go over it with them. And what they love about it is that they can simply click on the things that they want to buy from you. Once you propose a list of things, they click on the ones that they want and it self-totals. I think it's brilliant, the automation in this. And finally, closing, it's got electronic signatures. There are other people who don't use Better Proposals, but they use DocuSign. Pete Cooper, you can use e-proposals to close deals on the screen, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely, you can. And each business is unique. Each person and each company have to make their own choices. What we're suggesting here is that there is another way. This does work, it is effective, and not to be frightened of it. For some organizations, it may be that more work on screen to screen is done up front in prospecting and qualifying, and that final presentations does involve an element of face-to-face. We're not saying you can only work screen to screen the whole way through the sales process, but certainly here, when it gets to the end, the final end stages and signing, it can absolutely work much quicker, really shorten down the timescale where you're waiting for someone to return a contract for weeks on end.
Yeah, indeed. All right, so look, thank you, people. Hopefully, to our viewers, I hope that gives you some idea. You know, this slide shows you that there are specialist tools that are either peculiar to screen selling or that are at least very well suited to screen selling. I hope that gives you some of the ideas of the possibilities that are out there on how you can take your company sales into the 21st century. But I want to get your opinion a couple more times before we finish off and go to question time now. And that is there one actionable point from today that you will put into effect as a result of some of the tips and ideas that we shared with you tonight? We've got 7 things for you to choose from there. As I say every time, I hope that you want to do all of them. But for tonight, you've got to pick one. What is the one actionable item that you will execute as a result of what you've heard over the last hour? The poll is up. Go ahead and pick one, guys. If we can get you to commit to at least one thing, then it was an hour well spent. What do you think, Kath? Are they coming through?
Yeah, everybody's really keen. It's quite a broad spread at the moment, so I think you'll find the results interesting, Alex.
Okay, and what percentage are we looking at that have responded so far, please?
73% have responded thus far.
All right, let's give them the 5-second countdown once again. So that's 5, 4, 3, and close those polls, please, Kath. And what are the answers? Oh, that is an even spread, isn't it?
It is, yes. So everybody's listened to the optimizing your profile. 32% are going to take action there. We've also got developing templates and connecting and nurturing, really important. But there's lots of different spread there.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us, Kath, and thank you to all of our viewers for participating tonight. There's just one more question that we've got for you, if you will indulge me one more question further, and that is our survey. As we say every time, we want to know what you want. It's no good us trying to make this up as we go. We want to know what you want, and that way we can respond to your demand. So I wonder if you could please fill out the survey. Kath, is the survey up? There it is there. And tell us what you want to hear more of so that we can adapt to what the market is asking for. Do you want to take a deep dive into your sales process with a high-performance coach? Do you want an evaluation tool to assess your staff's mindset that's peculiar to sales evaluations? What about getting your own personal coach if you happen to be a leader? What about subscribing to our entire video library? The digital sales transformation, which we highlighted tonight? Or if you want all of the above, you can click on number 6. Are the answers coming through there, Kath?
Yeah, we've got 38% of the audience so far voted.
All right, so everybody, if you have voted before, because it's the same survey in previous weeks, that's fine. But if you haven't voted before, please give us some idea of what you would like to know more about so that we can tailor our content to suit. How is it looking now, Kath?
Up to 60% now.
Okay, we'll give that 5-second countdown again. 5, 4, 3, and let's close that survey. Thanks, Kath.
No problem.
All right, thank you very much for that. Now, people, next time we come back, we've got another subject for you, and this is a really important one. This is identify, retain, and improve your top talent. Here is the problem with recessions. People cut back, cut back, cut back. And then when they do that, sometimes, sadly, they disestablish roles and they let staff go. When they do that, they've got nobody left to take advantage of the recovery. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about next time. How do you identify, retain, and improve your top talent? That's going to be the subject of our next webinar. And Pete, I believe that we've got one of your other team that's going to be joining us next time who's a specialist on this particular topic. Is that right?
We certainly are. And he's actually on the webinar. Well, he's not on the panel, but he's listening to the webinar. So that's Adrian Logan.
Okay, that's fantastic. Well, look, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this morning. I do hope, once again, that you got some ideas that made the hour worthwhile and that were able to add some value to your day. But look, there's more to come. Some of you have got appointments to go to, but we've also got a bunch of questions that have come in. So if you'd like to stay, my panelists here will help you to find answers to your questions. Over to you, Pete.
Yeah, so we've had a lot of questions. Kath, is there any that you wanted to us to pick out and answer that haven't been answered already?
I think there was a little bit of uncertainty around the processes on LinkedIn, which you've addressed, but just how quickly you should follow up, what's appropriate when you're using LinkedIn.
I think for me, it isn't about the timing; it's about the quality of your messaging and the follow-up, which I think Paul also mentioned before. I think you don't want to leave it too long when somebody accepts your connection request. I think the key thing is don't try to sell to them when you send a follow-up message.
Right.
But, you know, do share something of value and make it genuine. I think Alex made the point that if you're face-to-face, you know, if you met somebody at an event, you shouldn't try to sell them straight away. And it's the same, you know, it's the same process, but be timely and professional in your follow-up. That's the key thing.
And there's another question that's come in just as an expert panel. Do you have any other tips about selling screen to screen if you're not used to it and you're used to selling face to face?
Yeah, I've got one. Practice.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely, yeah.
You don't want to practice on the customer. Simulate it with your colleagues.
Yeah. Another tip from me is make sure that you know how to use the technology. For example, I mean, and Alex beats this into us in a nice way, Alex. But before you're going to go on a Zoom presentation, reboot your laptop. Last year, I was on a presentation with a client, and my laptop decided to reboot. So make sure that you understand how to use the technology, and that comes down to practice as well.
Indeed it does. Kath, anything else you got there?
Yeah, there's a question coming from Richard. So if you've got a lot of different aspects to your role, sales, marketing, etc., how do you propose you would fit the guidelines for LinkedIn into your day?
I'll take that one, Kath, if I may.
Thanks, Peter.
Yeah, so this comes back, Richard, to that point earlier about cadence, about rigor. This is about putting this in the diary first and blocking out the other activities, and then you have to fit the rest around. If you don't see LinkedIn as a priority, you don't see lead generation and growing your business through extra sales and new customers as important, then I'm afraid it's just not going to happen. You're right. All those other pressures of the day are going to keep coming on you. So block out the time, be ruthless about it, make it as important as if you were having a meeting with your CEO, and just do it. And everything else must come second. Otherwise, I'm afraid you'll find you're going to slip. And get someone to hold you accountable. You know, find an accountability buddy within your business. Hold each other accountable, drive each other on.
Do you know how I do it?
Go, Paul.
I don't.
Hey.
I don't manage my LinkedIn. It's and I have someone else in the business do it. So it's one of those important things that takes time, and I don't have the time to do it. But we are very, very disciplined around it. 50 connections every day. It's now up to 70 connections a day. So there is rigor and there's a strategy around it. If you can't do it, then someone in your organization could be a good fit for you.
Good catch, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah.
Isn't it great to get somebody to do your profile while you sleep, Paul? Any
Yeah,
other
it's
questions there, Kath?
even weirder where they start answering on my behalf and I go, oh, I didn't say that. What happened there?
Any other questions there, Kath?
Just a final one, yeah. If you're a sales leader and you're trying to train people on their screen-to-screen calls, how do you best train somebody for their screen-to-screen selling?
Well, once again, I'll start off, and that is to actually simulate. It's all very well to talk to them like we're talking to you right now, saying try this or don't do that, but you actually need to simulate it. That housing company that I spoke of that decided to continue to sell houses during lockdown and do virtual plans and digital 3D walkthroughs, they simulated it between themselves and the sales manager before they went live with a real customer. And then by the time they were in front of a real customer, they were pretty comfortable with it.
And don't be frightened as a leader to make a mistake in those practices. Show your vulnerability, show that you're learning, and role model that with your team.
And that's the end of it as a team?
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, once again, thank you for those of you who stayed on. I see that by far the majority did. Others, of course, understandably would have had appointments to go to. But my take from that is that you've been getting value out of today. Thank you so much for joining us. And in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be talking to you about another really important topic. And you'll be getting reminders of that in due course. Thank you for sharing an hour of your day. We hope that that has helped your day, that it has helped add value to your day, and that it has helped you to rock this recovery.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.